Hi, Maureen.
Good morning.
Adrian, welcome.
Thank you.
Hi, Molly.
Hi there.
Battery 100%.
Okay.
Welcome, everyone. We'll let you get
2025.
settled. I still have some people to let in, so just reminding you, if you don't mind to mute your mic.
See if it's in the, oh, it's not in the contract. I could look it up and I could email you, but I think it was somewhere between 115 and 120.
Okay, I muted everybody. All right, thank you for joining us in this frozen province. Usually when I'm hosting these calls, there's people from everywhere and we do a big weather check, but we all know what's going on outside. Justin is from Ontario, so Justin, it's freezing, and that's all you need to know. All right. Okay, I think we'll jump right in. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Manitoba Community of Practice. Really excited to see so many people in the room. For those that don't know me, my name is Maureen Owens, and I am calling in today from Treaty 1 territory. Normally, we have a set way of opening up communities of practice, and given that this is our first one, I realize that setting the stage is important. However, our guest from Molly McCracken from CCPA and Make Poverty History is only able to join us for the first half hour. So I'm going to do my land acknowledgement, and we'll do a roundtable of introductions at the half hour mark. So we're going to jump right in to give Molly the maximum amount of time with us to share information about both hats she wears. Molly is the director for the Canadian Centre of Policy Alternatives, the Manitoba office, and she's also the provincial working group chair of Make Poverty History. CCPA is a nonpartisan research institute that produces research and analyses to help policymakers, activists, and Canadians make informed decisions. And Make Poverty History is a collaboration, also nonpartisan. It's a coalition committed to changing public policy to achieve a Manitoba without poverty. The coalition was formed in 2008. It's been around for a while, and it represents the voices of Indigenous, newcomers, women, LGBTQ, 2S+, disability, urban, rural, northern, business, and more. The group believes that poverty must adopt a comprehensive and systemic approach within a legislated framework. So Molly, I will turn it over to you and we'll get underway. Oh, you're muted, Molly. Sorry.
Here we go. Thank you so much, Maureen, for having me, and for everyone for allowing me to disrupt your normal proceedings. I really appreciate this opportunity. As Maureen mentioned, I'm wearing two hats. One is with the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives, and we do research on a variety of topics, including income inequality, poverty, labor issues, climate, childcare, pay equity, things like that. So if that's something you ever want to reach out to me on, please do. We are hosting a research grant from the Social Sciences Humanities Research Council that supports community-based research with research funding. So if there's ever any research in communities that you think might assist you with, we can connect students and academics. So just offering that. There's obviously parameters around that, but that is one offering I can provide. And I think what I want to do right now is present information about Make Poverty History Manitoba, who we are, what we've been doing, and to see if others are interested in connecting with us, in supporting with us, because I know you're also talking directly with the provincial government and the idea is that more of us that are saying similar or supportive things of each other, then hopefully the more change we can possibly make. I do recognize that the province is doing their, they finished their consultation phase for the poverty reduction strategy, and that will be then released later this year. That is an important document for outlining what they will do for the next 5 years, their plan and approach. And we note that they have said that they are focusing on children 0 to 3, youth aging out of care, and seniors, which are important groups, but we know there's many more people impacted by poverty. And so what Make Poverty History has been doing with CCPA research is providing the evidence of what more they could be doing. And another kind of connection between the two is that CCPA has been tracking provincial spending, debt, and deficits, and where revenue could be raised to address income inequality in a progressive way that supports people on the lower income spectrum. The Parliamentary Budget Officer, which is an office that supports Parliament, recently released a study that I can share that said the top 60% of all households are doing fine, that they've actually had increased market income. It's the bottom 40% of households that have really been struggling with the inflation rates and the cost of food and housing, cost of living crisis. And so we're using that report as evidence to repeat again and again this message that affordability measures need to be targeted to those who are most affected and who need it most. So I do have a presentation here, which I just, if you wouldn't mind, I think I just need a second to figure out how to share my screen. So now I will pull it up, which I think, no, not that one. Okay, so can you see that there? Slideshow, maybe I can do it that way. There we go, that looks nicer. Is that okay? Can you see the circle here?
Yep, we can see it.
Great. Yeah, so Make Poverty History is a group, we're a big tent coalition, and we have published several pieces. This latest one was published right before the 2023 election in July 2023. And so we have, this is all of what we're asking the province to do on education. So the outer circle is at the bottom to establish a bold target and timeline. You know, the idea there being that government won't act unless they say we're going to bring down poverty by 25% in the next 5 years, for example, and have everything working towards that goal. And then the top is implementing the TRC calls to action and the MMIWG 2S Plus calls for justice, recognizing that you know, the impacts of colonization, residential schools, the 60s scoop is still impacting Indigenous people today, and that action on those is imperative because many of them intersect with income inequality and poverty. And then, you know, we have several others here: housing, education and early childhood, robust mental health care, restorative justice, supporting children in care, equitable public transportation, employment, equitable employment. And then in the middle is implement a livable basic benefit. And this is the one I wanted to talk to you about today. So, the criteria we used to develop these was quite bold. We wanted to put forward things to the province that impact the most number of people, recognizing there are subsets of the population that could benefit from certain actions, but you know, given our capacity and our goals, we wanted to approach it this way. Address the depth of poverty, so those living the lowest below the official government poverty line, And I know data came out yesterday that said Manitoba has the highest rate of people in deep income poverty. So those people who are below 75% of the market basket rate of poverty. And why is that? Well, I'm sure we could talk about that for a while, but it's rising rents, it's frozen social assistance rates, and it's intergenerational trauma and colonization, among many other things, lack of mental health supports, things like that. We're focusing on things the province can do. We're not talking to the federal government or the city governments, we're talking to the province. And we do a service to governments because we have developed positions, and I'm welcome discussion on any of these with you folks, where we've developed a consensus on what way forward. So yeah, these are the 10 here. I've kind of talked about these already. So sorry, this slide will, okay. So we released this report back in July, and it's based on our success with Rent Assist. Do you all know about Rent Assist? It's a shelter benefit. It's for low-income folks. It has remained despite changes in government. It was actually based on a campaign the community had calling to have a heart raise the shelter rates for people on welfare. And the government, after 3 years of pushing from the community, ended up introducing Rent Assist, which is available to people on social assistance, and it's intended to be portable, although now it's not quite there yet. You have to apply if you are low income and not on assistance, and it gives money every month to people to help with their rent. And so that was an example of community coming together, pushing consistently for the same thing, having conversations with elected officials, and we got it done. And now it's, over $100 million a year to people's pockets. And we're a leader in the country in terms of this benefit. So what we're proposing with the basic needs portion here is to do the same. So basically, if this circle is EIA, welfare, Rent Assist help with the shelter half, and what we're saying is we want what people get for their basic needs on social assistance, so that's food, transportation, hygiene products. I mean, they don't officially cover a cell phone, but people use it for that. We want all of that to become a livable basic benefit. So it's like a pragmatic basic income in that we're not saying blow up the whole system. We're saying increase what people get for EIA to 75% of the median market basket of poverty. That's the rate, and then increase it every year after that. So right now, if you're a single person considered employable on social assistance, you get $274 for basic needs. And as you would well know, that has to cover all these things: food, shelter, medication, toiletries, laundry, transportation, phone, household goods. So yeah, these are the features of the benefit. And we developed this with Basic Income Manitoba, which is a group that organizes here in Manitoba. So yeah, right now, EIA is 40% of the market basket measure of poverty for a single person. That's very, very low. We're saying this livable basic benefit needs to go to 100% of the market basket rate of poverty. And, so it has to be set at an amount that's livable. It has to be portable, so it stays with people, so they know if they go get a job that they won't get this claw back and have a immediate drop, that it'll slowly decline as their earned income rises. And, that's important because we know a lot of working people are accessing food banks. This is the data of who's using food banks from Harvest Manitoba. It's unconditional. So this is a very important aspect for the basic income folks, and, to make sure you have a dignified benefit, that people don't have to, jump through hoops to get this, that it is given to people. So it alleviates this very stressful survival mode mentality people have on social assistance right now. And then it's indexed to inflation. And this graph shows that even with there was a small increase in EIA for single individuals of $25 a month. Even with that, due to inflation in what economists call real dollars, they used to get in real dollars in 2018, $11,827, but now they're getting just over $1,000 less because there's been no adjustments for the cost of living crisis, and that's totally unfair and unnecessary. And that it should be income tested so that, you know, it's based on the income you have. This is a fancy graph that shows, you know, how it would decline if somebody's income increased. That's the blue is take-home earnings. The orange is what we're suggesting. And the other colors, this teal and others, are what people are getting right now. And we also recognize that there's a lot of problems to EIA. We don't want to say not deal with those while we do this. We want the province to move on those. So some of you would be familiar with these things, but those are also the things we are telling the province: reducing intake time, make sure they have money for a cell phone, training for staff, reducing caseload sizes, increasing community-based service delivery, and align their policy with a housing first and human rights based approach. And this is a human rights based approach, which is different than the current model, which is very antiquated, based on really the Victorian Poor Laws, whereby people had to prove again and again that they need this money, that people have a right to the basic standard of living, and that government has a role in providing that. And so that fits into our whole graph here. I'll repeat that there, and yeah. So I'll stop sharing. Hold on there. So I just, one more thing before, and I welcome questions and discussion. I can share what we put forward in the Manitoba budget submission that I just made here in Winnipeg at their in-person meeting on February 10th. And what we've done is we've said, look, province, we want you to increase what people are getting on social assistance to 75% of the market basket measure, then ask the feds to take it to 100. And we want you to do that over 5 years. And so in year one, this is what we're asking for this budget, which is costs $48 million. It's not that much money, considering how much more they're getting on equalization payments. The amount they get every year due to inflation, every year the government gets a bit more on PST revenue, a bit more on income tax. And also the income tax and property tax changes that were made have really benefited people on the upper income scale, because if you paid more tax now, you're paying less due to the changes in budget 2023. So on the CCPA side, we're proposing a fourth income tax bracket, a mansion tax, other means for the province to be able to bring in the revenue to pay for what community groups like Make Poverty History are asking for. So I'd be happy to share that with you. We've also saying immediately for earned income on welfare right now, after $200, if somebody makes $200 a month, it's clawed back at 70%. So there's really a disincentive to work for folks. We did some conversations with Maytree, which does an excellent report every year. Ontario's, they allow them to earn $500 and it's clawed back at 50%. So we're saying, make that change immediately. You have the power to do it, and this will help people right now. So we'll keep repeating those messages. And if you want to write in support of what we're talking about, really welcome that. So thanks so much for your time, folks.
Thanks so much, Molly. Do we have time for a few questions?
I have 10 minutes. Yeah. So
okay.
Good.
All right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'll open up the floor. People have questions for Molly before she has to leave. Great information. I really appreciate the overview, and I appreciate the talk about the budget. And I wonder, just while maybe people are formulating their questions, I wonder when you presented those budget items to the government, what was what was the response, or did you get a sense or vibe, if I will? How did you feel about, how did they feel about it, I guess?
Yes, well, whenever we've spoken to Nahanni Fontaine, who's the minister responsible for EIA, the Minister of Families, you know, she is very gracious. The message is always, we are a listening government. And then they pivot to what they're doing in terms of working on child welfare, which is, of course, very important. What they're doing on the homelessness strategy, which is very important. But we have not received a direct positive answer on what we've spoken about. When we did launch our campaign on the International Day for the Eradication of Poverty, which is October 17th. This is a United Nations Day at the legislature, and Nahanni Fontaine spoke in response to this exact presentation pretty much. So my read on it is that they are really hamstrung by this commitment they've made to balance the budget in 2 years. They have a $1.3 billion deficit. It was a $1.9 billion deficit. But when they first came into government, they were told it was 300 million. So really, when they got in, they found there was a lot more expenditures promised than was budgeted for. And now they're having to bring down this deficit in 2 years. So the message inside government is don't spend anything. And that's really hard for anti-poverty advocates because we know people are suffering right now. And so what's happening south of the border, and that uncertainty is taking up a lot of their time, and it may be a way for them to have an out to say, we can't balance in 2 years, therefore we'll have a deficit for longer, therefore maybe there's room for us to keep pushing. We did present to the Poverty Reduction Committee of Cabinet, which, if you're not aware of the legislation in Manitoba, says there must be a committee of all the ministries responsible for poverty, and there's 3 community seats on that. And they were very polite. The 2 questions we got were the welfare wall. How can we reduce the welfare wall to help people who want to get into work? And so that's where our ask around increasing the amount people can keep for earned income and reducing the clawback rate is we're hoping will get their attention. But there really is this, I would say, antiquated ideology of the deserving and the undeserving poor. And I think we have to, in everything we do, challenge that we're not living in the Victorian era. People do not have families who can help them. Otherwise, their families would help them. They're stuck, they're trapped in poverty, and that we need a human rights approach to this work. And I think we just have to keep politely, persistently presenting the evidence, and we know that can make a difference, although it takes time.
Thank you so much for that. Yeah. Folks have questions, comments?
Well, I can leave my email and some of this information and welcome any questions. And I should confess that we don't have a lot of representation from rural Manitoba. So any of you folks are interested in connecting with Make Poverty History, we meet online once a month, welcome more voices. And yeah, I think this is, of any government, one that we could potentially get some movement on. We are talking to the opposition, and they're very important as well.
Battery 100%.
When we got rent assist, it was actually Brian Pallister in opposition that agreed to increasing the shelter benefits for people on welfare. The NDP, it was Dewar was premier, and they, for whatever reason, the NDP didn't want to move on it, and it was the opposition government pushing them that got them to finally do something. So it needs to be all hands on deck. And if you're talking to your legislative representative, you know, your MLA, I think it's very important they hear from various places in the province, this kind of thing, that it's not just, you know, one part of the province asking for this. So
There's a couple folks with hands up. Gay, go ahead. I saw your hand first.
Yeah. Just a quick question. We've been following this through all the different name changes, right? There's UBI, there's GBI, there's all sorts of things. You've chosen to make it a benefit. Now, my first reaction when I heard that was, ooh, that sounds like a handout, right? And it sounds like, again, it's not something as a human right that we deserve, but more again, it's in, and then, as you said, it sort of follows in the EIA. Can you just explain why you went that way and why we don't see it as a separate entity from the social benefits that are available to people?
Yeah, great question. I mean, for a universal basic income to be introduced, it would have to be federally. It would have to be the government of Canada to do that. And that's also one of the challenge of a province going out too far on this, is that if you look at what all provinces give, you know, they're all within the same band, essentially. So we were pragmatic. We called it livable because we want it to be able to support people, actual costs of living. But we use the word benefit because there's not consensus on basic income, and it's also something that we see as a federal role. So we wanted to be something that would work for a province and in Manitoba.
Is there not a need for us to work with the federal government together? Or are you just thinking that this is a step that we can make?
We're saying this is a step that Manitoba could make. They should work with the federal government. We've not seen any movement on this federally. What we've seen federally has been, you know, an increase to old age security of 10% for 75 and older. We've seen some improvements, you know, not to disregard the things they've done on the Canada Child Benefit, and the dental benefits that people are getting. But they have not moved on an increased income transfer. Where poverty rates did go by was the CERB, you know, the Canadian Emergency Response Benefit, but they ended that. So Little Make Poverty History Manitoba can only do so much. So we're focused on the province. There are groups like Campaign 2000 and Basic Income Canada that's focused on the federal government, but we wanted to propose something that would be a dignified human rights-based approach that Manitoba could take.
Okay. The Senate did have a bill. There was a bill at the federal level.
Yes.
So it's not that the federal government has done nothing. So it's just how we can tap into that. So, okay.
Well, yeah, Leah Gazan had a private member's bill. It's been studied, but nothing's come into place from the government side. The Senate did have a bill, yeah.
Thanks, Gay. Thanks, Molly. Karen, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, Molly. Good question, Gay. I just want to point out, like, Canada Child Benefit doesn't sound negative to me. I don't think people hear it negatively. So interesting to think about that word. But my question is really about, if you could just say a bit about membership, what it looks like, what it means for us to become members. I seem to remember signing Carmen Wellness Connections up as members some time ago. Like, what's the procedure? What does it mean to say we're members of? Is that even the language that you use for Make Poverty History? How can we show our support? Especially, I hear you wanting us rural people to be more engaged.
Sure, great. Yes, well, we do have a newsletter, and hopefully you're getting that. If you're not, I can make sure you get that list. And then we have monthly meetings. So I guess participating in our monthly meetings would be the best way to stay informed and helpful about what we're doing. And then this work on the budget and what this campaign is, we are asking people to write in. So I can send that info to you if you're able to write in a letter to the Minister of Finance on this.
Do you have templates and such, Molly?
Yes, yeah.
So if Yeah, if you can get those to me, then I will do a follow-up email after today, and we can post those links, if they're links or attachments, in the follow-up email.
Mhm.
And I just add the Make Poverty History website is fantastic. I feel you've got lots of really good resources and kind of one-pager things that summarize a lot of information that can be overwhelming. So, yeah, it's helpful. Thanks.
Well, thank you. Yes, we operate on very little funding. We have one concert a year and everything, but it's all on the side of people's desks. So, but thank you. I'm
Yeah.
glad that it's useful.
Yeah, that was helpful.
I know it's 12:01. One more little question. Other than writing to MLAs, any other suggestions for our communities?
Well, I don't know if you've given in a budget submission. They're due by February 21st. I think the more people just asking for two things, like welfare rates have not increased this whole time of the inflationary crisis. That's problematic. That should not be the case. Other provinces had one-time payments to people or did other things. So you're welcome to endorse what we're doing, and I can send you that language, or even just saying that and asking for it. And this amount that people are allowed to keep of their earnings issue. I mean, there's a lot more to be said about welfare, the problems with it, but we're trying to, focus on some things and repeat them a lot. And as we've seen, that kind of makes a difference. And I think also explain it makes a difference for people. Like I was in after the lockup, when you go to the budget and the ledge, which you can all do if you want, and then you go out in the media scrums. And then I was talking to some people and they said, well, 50 more bucks a month, what would that really mean to somebody? And I said, well, it means the world. Do you see how much people can really get from a food bank? It's only once a month. It really depends on what they've got. Like, how are people surviving right now in this low amount of money? We need to, and it's healthcare. It's, root causes of crime are related to having not enough money. So, obviously we need also social housing and good community support. So we need a holistic approach, but to me, this income side, they've really are not giving it enough the attention it should be getting, especially since groceries have gone up so much. But I have to run.
Yes, thank you so much.
I'm sorry I don't have more time.
No, we appreciate you coming.
The questions.
And this is our first kind of gathering as a network in Manitoba, and we'll define kind of what this group wants to do, but we really appreciate you sharing, first of all, the information, and then some things that we can do to help influence our government provincially. So thank you so much, Molly. I'm sure we'll be in touch.
Okay, thank you. Take care.
Take care.
Bye, everybody.
All right. That was some great information, and I'm sure some of that is percolating with folks. So if questions come up later for you, I'll share out Molly's email address, and we can address them later in the call today too. So now I'm going to pivot back to what I would do when I'm starting a community of practice, which is to do a land acknowledgement and also do a bit of a roundtable, see who's in the room. So I'll share my screen again, and I can't see you when I'm sharing my screen. So if you have questions, just shout them out, because I can't see if anyone actually has their hand up. So, all right. So hopefully you can see the land acknowledgement slide there. I mentioned that I am calling in from Treaty 1 territory, and I live in what is colonially named Portage La Prairie. And this is also the location of the former Portage Indian Residential School, which you can see in the picture. It was one of 17 residential schools in Manitoba and one of 164 residential schools across Canada. An estimated 150,000 children from First Nations, Métis Nations, and Inuit communities attended these residential schools. The Roman Catholic, Anglican, Methodist, United, and Presbyterian churches operated these schools, and they were funded by the Department of Indian Affairs until the late 1960s. The Portage La Prairie Indian Residential School was initially managed by the Presbyterian Church until 1965, and then the United Church took over until 1969, when the Department of Indian Affairs took over the management of the school. And the school remained open until 1975. It's now home actually to the National Residential School Museum of Canada, Incorporated, and so it still exists. It's now a museum, and Long Plain First Nation hosts it today. In 2005, the building was designated as a provincial heritage site. It holds a substantial amount of history and experiences that have become an invaluable part of Canada's history and heritage, and it needs to be preserved. And it makes me think of when we look at the principles of reconciliation, number 10 in particular, which says reconciliation requires sustained public education and dialogue, including youth engagement about the history and legacy of residential schools, treaties, and Aboriginal rights, as well as the historical and contemporary contributions of Aboriginal people to Canadian society. So when I was looking on their website for some information about the museum, one line that grabbed my attention, which I think speaks to the resiliency of Indigenous people. So what it said was from a place of hurting to a place of healing, which really stood out to me. So this land acknowledgement honors the survivors of residential schools and their families and communities. I'd encourage folks to explore the rich and diverse culture, voices, experiences, and stories of First Nation, Inuit, and Métis people. Please feel free to silently acknowledge where you are calling in from today, or you're welcome to write something in the chat. At Tamarack, we also do an African ancestral acknowledgement. And so I was looking for information on Portage La Prairie's history of Black settlement. But unfortunately, there wasn't much specifically about Black settlers in the area. It's not widely documented. The area was initially settled by European fur traders and missionaries, and then later saw an influx of settlers from Eastern Canada during the 19th century. But we want to acknowledge those who did come here as settlers as migrants, either in this generation or in generations past, and those who came here involuntarily, particularly those brought to these lands as the result of the transatlantic slave trade and slavery. So today's call, this is our agenda. So we've heard from Molly from CCPA and Make Poverty History. And we're also going to hear a little bit later from Justin Williams, who will talk about working with the government. What are some of the leverage points? What kind of movement can our group have in Manitoba? Some strategies, and also some of the work that Tamarack's doing around policy. But before we do that, I would like to do a bit of a round table, see who's in the room. So let's we won't go in any particular order. You're welcome to just take space if no one's speaking. If you could say your name, the organization that you work for, and the organization that you're attached to with regard to the Tamarack membership. So if you belong to a leadership table that's working around poverty reduction and you're a Tamarack member, so that, and also the organization that you work for. And then I'll get folks to just talk about their organization a little bit too. Like if there's multiple people from one organization, I'll just get one person to talk about, for example, Carmen Wellness Connections. I see there's a number of people on the call from Carmen Wellness Connections, but I'll get one person to kind of talk about the leadership table. So that was a lot. Let's start with names, organization, and the Tamarack membership that you're connected to. So anyone's welcome to go ahead. And
I can start. Sorry, I missed that, Maureen. Oh, I think you're muted. Maybe I'll just go.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. I'm Adrienne Penner. I work for Southern Health in their Healthy Living department, which is part of public health, trained as a dietitian, but I'm joining this team on behalf of SEEK, the Southeast Equity Coalition. And I might let Gay speak a little bit more to that group.
Okay, I don't know that we're supposed to speak about the group right now. I thought we were just doing the name and that. I'm not sure what you want, Maureen, but my name is Gay Bose, and I am a volunteer and a retired teacher in public education. But my role now is as a volunteer and on with our organization, the coalition, the Equity Coalition that Adrienne spoke about.
Gay, you can go ahead and talk about SEEK. It just makes sense to segue into that, if that's
okay. Well, we're an organization that started we pulled on passionate people in the community of Steinbach and area. And we've developed a mission statement and a vision, which is about equity for people in no matter who you are. And so our main focus so far has been coordination, so that we get all the different social agencies in the community and volunteers coordinated and communicating with each other. And then we've done a fair push on public transit, because there's no public transportation in Steinbach or the area, and that's starting to get developed outside of Steinbach. But it's a slow process, very slow process. We're working with the city council, and now we've taken on the again, I'm not sure what to call it, the Manitoba history, the livable basic income. We started out talking about UBI, and then we changed it to guaranteed. So we're doing, we've had a couple speakers. We had Sid Frankel come out, and also Senator Pate zoom into one of our meetings. We've watched the video about the projects, the projects that happened in Ontario and the results. So we're developing that. We've got an ad hoc group now that's working on that piece. So that's where we've got so far. But we're all it's just beginning. We're not nearly as organized, for instance, as Carmen. So we're starting. It's all good.
Thanks, Gay and Adrienne. Who would like to go next?
I can speak. Hi, Gay. Everyone else sounds really organized when you describe yourselves. I'm Karen Jaden. I'm one of the co-chairs of Carmen Wellness Connections. And we are establishing office and presence in a new way with the additional funding that we've received. And so we have some staff now, and just seeing tons of possibilities for working collaboratively with community agencies. And that work has really paid off, that you described, Gay, of networking. We're really benefiting from the work that others have been doing in our organization. So, and we are members of Tamarack, but I don't really understand. We've been members of Tamarack for a while, but I still don't understand Maureen's question about what leadership thing or whatever we're part of. So, maybe you can tell me.
Yeah, I use the term leadership table. That's probably Tamarack speak. It just means the group that you belong to. So Carmen Wellness Connections, I'm calling it a leadership table just for, yeah. So perfect. Okay. Thank you.
You can go next if you want. Hi, everyone. My name is Chantal Chevalier, and I'm a healthy living facilitator with Southern Health Santé Sud, just as Adrienne is.
Battery 100%.
But I sit on the Carmen Wellness Connection board, and that's why I'm here today, helping them out. Yeah, and I've been on there since its inception in 2019, so it's been great. Learning lots of new things.
Thanks, Chantal.
I can go next since we're on a Carmen roll. My name is Lisa Lehman, and I have been part of Carmen Wellness Connection since its inception as well, and was hired as their first employee. So that's exciting for us.
Anyone want to go next? Krista or James?
Okay, I
Philip?
can go. Krista Rumpel, Social Impact Director here at Central Station in Winkler. I think a couple members from our leadership table are on the call as well, but we have renamed to the Winkler Impact Network as our leadership table. And we are excited to be on the call today.
Thanks, Krista.
James Friesen. I chair the Central Community Homes Organization. We work in collaboration, like it's out of Winkler, we work in collaboration with Central Station, who provides all of our tenant relations and property management on our behalf. So Central Community Homes, several years ago, well, about 4 years ago now, acquired the Manitoba housing assets in the community of Winkler. We work from the philosophy that it is ultimately the community's responsibility to care for its most vulnerable members. And so that guides the organization. And we work in collaboration with Manitoba Housing, using a housing first model, and work closely with the community, including Central Station. So we're building a project right now, finally, 28 units of deeply affordable housing. And we're still writing grant proposals and trying to get the funding together to make that a viable operation.
Thanks, James. Philip or Lee?
I can go next. My name's Lee Finney. I work alongside a couple of the people on the call here. I work for Southern Health Santé Sud in healthy living. I'm a dietitian by background. It's nice to see some faces that we've met recently. I'm part of SEEK, and we're new members of Tamarack. So very excited to be here and just see all the passion around the table. That's wonderful. So thanks, Maureen.
Thanks, Lee. Philip. Maybe we lost Philip. Madison, I know that you are with Southern Health as a student. Did you want to introduce yourself?
It's okay. You can skip me. This is actually my last day working with Adrian, so I won't be in here too much longer.
All right. Well, good luck.
Thank you.
We have Amanda on the call as well, who's a Tamarack person. Amanda, you want to introduce yourself? Oh.
Yes, hi, my name's Amanda. I'm doing a field placement with the Tamarack Institute while studying social work. And I've been working with the Communities Building Belonging, and I'm more recently also starting to work with the Communities Ending Poverty, or joining you all for these communities of practice. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much. All right, I think we've gone around the room. So we don't have tons of time left, and I want to leave Justin a bit of time. I'll just do an introduction. Justin is an associate director at Tamarack, and he covers off public policy and government relations. So he's used to talking with government, knows them well, and he leverages his expertise in research and advocacy to drive positive change and community engagement. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Justin, and maybe you can chat a bit to the group about your role and maybe ways that you can help us, and some tips on leveraging or making headway, I guess, with the government.
Yeah, and I'll try to be quick because I think it'll be good to have more conversation, especially there's the 10 minutes left. But I'll give a quick introduction to sort of myself and the role within Tamarack, less so about myself, more so about the role, and sort of go from there. Before I do that, as Murray mentioned, I'm calling in from Ontario in the traditional territory of the Attawandan, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee people, in the area colonially known as Kitchener-Waterloo. And what I'll just mention there, I often think about how I live in a community that was leased as a part of the Haldeman tract, but never paid for, which for someone who works in public policy is a reminder that the systems in place are often used to maintain power. And at Tamarack, within our work, we try to shift that power away from traditional sources to those who have had the power used against them. So within my role, as was mentioned, it's a combination of government relations and public policy efforts. And so within the government relations, it usually focuses on working with government folks, civil servants, especially to develop and implement programs and projects. So that at the federal level, a good example is helping in the development of the Intersectoral Action Fund from the Public Health Agency of Canada, and then Tamarack doing work to support those grantees who receive funding from it to help develop and implement intersectoral action, essentially collective impact through training and then knowledge mobilization, so things like that. And then also the public policy. So how do we take the lessons that are learned from the communities that are part of the Tamarack network and help bridge them up to provincial, territorial, and federal governments, as well as more so in the last couple of years, which is exciting for me as my role has sort of shifted in a positive way to actually helping community and networks be the ones who attend and implement this, or like attend meetings and help them to interact with their government, the provincial, territorial, and sometimes federal government. So in there, the other piece that's sort of a part of the public policies pushes and asks are really trying to encourage higher orders of government to do what they can do to make the work that's happening locally easier and more effective. So that's both in terms of like implementing policies that can support it, but also thinking about ways that provinces can help within funding for long-term sustainability of collective, like place-based collaboratives to do the work that they do, because we know it's impactful, but it's also hard to actually fund and do the work. So that's a part of that public policy piece. And I apologize for going really fast, but I'm just trying to go through at the time. So if there's any questions or anything like that, please just yell at me. The one thing I want to make sure that I do also mention as a part of the work and making sure that we are community driven in the work that we do. We've also created the Community Public Policy Advisory Committee, and this is an advisory committee that's open to Tamarack members to help drive forward the things that we're talking to government about. And our next meeting is going to be at the end of February. And I'm just going to send the link to the COP, the member COP list, because it's on there. And something that has come out of the last meeting of the Public Policy Advisory Committee, which I'm really excited for, is that the last 15 minutes of the meeting are going to be open to the members to say what's a challenge that they're having that they want to work through. So last time we talked about Calgary was working on some advocacy around their low-income transit pass and brought that forward for discussion to sort of learn together with members for thinking through some of their advocacy there. So hopefully that will be of value. Want to share that. Last thing I'm going to say before I be quiet so that we can actually talk, and hopefully I've been helpful. But again, I'm happy to also come back and think through some of these pieces, is that when we talked about, let's put forward for me to talk a little bit about the value of coming together to think about public policy and working with governments and that kind of thing. One of the values and the important pieces that I see that I've recognized from just as the network in Manitoba has grown, the opportunity that's come with the redevelopment of the poverty reduction strategy and some of the conversations that we've had with both partners and civil servants within the province of Manitoba is that as the network grows, you have a unique perspective, especially in the context of rural Manitoba, and the ability to have that network and then share information and knowledge from the things that you're seeing within your community to the government. And that's a really, really valuable piece. And especially when it comes to that work around nudging elected officials. One of the things that I think about when I think about the network and that is it's really important to have lots of messages that are along the same lines to push something forward. And you can create relationships with your local elected officials to make it the impact of a program that you might want to recommend for your local community. And why that's valuable and I wish I had more time to explain this, so I apologize, but is that if that member takes it back, they'll go and talk to their caucus about it and why it's important. And then it's, like this coming from Carmen, this coming from Winkler, this coming from this throughout the caucus. And that's the way that government will go, oh, I have to do this thing because I'm hearing it from different communities. It's not like that's really valuable because I'm going to say this in the not nice way, but when thinking about electoral politics, hearing about it from a lot of different places makes them go, oh, like we need to do the thing. And so there's really important value within a network to do that. The other piece at a local level that's really valuable is that this is just in general, you get to learn from each other and then help to use that to advocate for things that might happen locally based upon successes within other networks. And that joint up impact is really, really important for that system-wide change. So I'm going to say is if you're okay with it, I would love to come back and talk about this deeper later, because I think that Marina's heard me say this. I'm really excited about the growth that's happened in Manitoba, and I think the opportunities that are there because of that growth within the network. And I think that there's opportunities within the provincial government to do that. I think that Molly's suggestion around the pre-budget submission is a good one, especially if we think about things that we might want to see advance from the poverty reduction strategy. The timeline is short. And so my suggestion would be, there's only 2 minutes left in this call, but having an understanding about the things that from each of your pieces of work might make sense to be 1 or 2, 3 suggestions. And then sort of submitting something, I think is a valuable idea. At the same time of thinking about the submission's great, but then if you have time and if you have interest in doing this, how do we then have a shared message that could go to those elected officials or civil servants, and use Maureen and I to help with that. So I apologize for taking so much time.
No, I gave you a big agenda and then left you with 5 minutes, so that's my bad, but we definitely will have you back, Justin, and thank you for that. Some really great tips, I think, as we define this group, and I had a poll that I was going to share, but we're running out of time, so I think I'll make a little survey just to kind of get a sense of what people want to get out of this group, because there's work that you'll do within your own community, like Justin said, if they hear from this community and this community and this community, there's that work, but then there's what we want to do together and what can we do together, and that's what I want us to define as a group. So we have 3 communities represented on this call: Carmen, Steinbach area, and Winkler. And Brandon and Winnipeg and Portage are also members in Manitoba, and they sent their regrets for this meeting. Not that they weren't interested, it just conflicted. So hopefully next time we'll have a broader community, or a community showing, but I'll definitely be forwarding the notes and the poll to them as well. So, yeah, thank you for those tips. I think some of the biggest things I heard was getting in touch with your MLA, writing letters, getting the word out, and using some of that language that was found in the budget. And I'll be sure to share that. Krista, you have a request. So I'm going to give you the last minute here, and yeah, feel free to come off mute and share with the group.
Yeah, hi everyone. I just wanted to mention that we have a poverty simulation event on next week, Thursday, held at Central Station, and I'm assuming most of you are probably familiar with that, but if you're not, it's an event that simulates what life is like for someone who's experiencing poverty, and it's meant to build empathy and understanding of the challenges that a person experiences every day who is living in poverty. That event will be held here Thursday, February 20th. That is next week, Thursday. I realize that's kind of short notice, but if you have anyone who'd be interested in signing up, we would love to have anyone from any community in Southern Manitoba. We are in need of a few more people to sign up for that, or we risk not being able to actually have the event. So we're hoping to have a few more, at least 10 more people to sign up. And I think Maureen is going to send out the link to sign up for that in the email. And I think my email is in there. So if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. I'd be happy to answer those.
Krista, I was saying I had seen your email. Can I share that then with Carmen Wellness Connections? Maybe
absolutely share it far and wide.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, we can share through Seek. I can do that. So is there an email that you've shared, Krista, or then it'll come through Maureen to forward?
I can put it in the chat, but I think it should come through Maureen as well, but I will put it here.
I'll share it again. Yeah. Okay. I just want to mention too, and I'll put this in the follow-up email, that we do have a basic income webinar coming up. And they're going to go through insights from the basic income guarantee forum report. So if that's of interest, you'll find the link to register in my follow-up email. So thank you everyone for joining us today, and we will get together again. And please, if you have suggestions for this group, or there's questions, or you want to share anything with me, please feel free to do that. And we will also definitely invite Justin back. So thank you everyone, and have a good day.
Thanks so much, Maureen.
Bye.
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 Thanks, Maureen. Sorry I had sound issues.
No, all good.
I just wanted to say, yes, Justin, I would love to see your highlights. You offered that in the chat just as we are ending. So that'd be great. That could be shared.
Thanks. I'm not sure if you heard that or not, but I'll pass that on.